Jey Uso was out for the dark match after SmackDown went off the air tonight. This was the same episode of the Blue Brand that ended with Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns getting brutally beaten down by the Bloodline. His response was quite interesting, to say the least. Jimmy Uso teased bringing his brother back into the ranks upon his return to SmackDown. Roman Reigns rejected the idea of Jey Uso back by his side, saying, "No yeet." But Jimmy seems insistent that help is needed, and that was validated at the end of tonight's SmackDown, when they were both beaten up badly by the Bloodline. Jey Uso's reaction was quite crazy because he was backstage, as he likely witnessed his brother and cousin getting beaten down. He came out for his dark match, which he won, like nothing had happened, with the tweet below showing just how little he cares about the Bloodline. Of course, it should be mentioned that in the storyline perspective of things, Jey wasn't there for the night. It seems like the ball could be rolling for him to re-enter the fold and battle alongside his brother and cousin to face the new Bloodline at Survivor Series War Games. The WWE Universe was rocked when Jey Uso found himself in an unimaginable position, watching his own family, his brother Jimmy Uso and his cousin Roman Reigns, get brutally attacked by the very faction they had once led together, the Bloodline. The shocking turn of events left the wrestling world buzzing. But what truly stole the show was Jey Uso's raw and emotional reaction, caught on camera during one of the most pivotal moments in WWE history. To fully grasp the magnitude of Jey Uso's reaction, we must first rewind to the complex history that led to this explosive moment. The Bloodline, once the most dominant faction in WWE, had ruled SmackDown for years. Roman Reigns, the self-proclaimed tribal chief, led the charge with Jey and Jimmy Uso by his side as the formidable tag team, the Usos. Together, they reigned supreme, steamrolling through any competition that dared to challenge their supremacy. But as the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Over time, cracks began to form within the Bloodline. Roman Reigns, consumed by his ego and hunger for power, started treating his own family members as mere pawns in his quest for dominance. The once unbreakable bond between the Usos and Reigns began to falter. Jimmy Uso was the first to openly rebel, refusing to fall in line with Reigns' oppressive leadership. This eventually led to a brutal family feud, with Jey Uso torn between his loyalty to his brother and his duty to the tribal chief. Fast forward to the present day, and the Bloodline is a shell of its former self. Newer, more ruthless members have taken over the faction, casting aside anyone who no longer fits the tribal chief's vision. The stage was set for a confrontation that no one could have predicted. On a recent episode of SmackDown, tensions had reached an all-time high. Roman Reigns, still clinging to his role as the tribal chief, stood in the ring, flanked by Jimmy Uso, who had surprisingly realigned with him after a tumultuous period of rebellion. The WWE Universe was unsure where Jey Uso stood, as he had been conspicuously absent in recent weeks, possibly reflecting on his next move. However, the drama reached its boiling point when the Bloodline's new enforcers, Solo Sikoa, and a shocking appearance from Damian Priest, fresh off a Judgment Day Bloodline alliance, stormed the ring. In a moment that will be replayed for years to come, they turned on Reigns and Jimmy, delivering a brutal beatdown that left the WWE Universe in stunned silence. Jey Uso, who had been watching the chaos unfold on a monitor, was frozen in place. The man once known for his fiery intensity, the man who had once stood side by side with Roman and Jimmy to dominate WWE, was now witnessing the downfall of his family, helpless, miles away from the carnage unfolding in the ring. The moment Jey's face appeared on screen, it was clear that this was no ordinary reaction. The WWE Universe, accustomed to wrestlers displaying anger, shock, or defiance in moments like this, was instead met with something far deeper. Jey's eyes were wide, his mouth slightly agape, but it wasn't just shock. There was pain, disbelief, and an unmistakable undercurrent of betrayal etched into every line of his expression. He watched as his brother, Jimmy, the same man who had fought wars beside him in the ring, was tossed around like a rag doll by the Bloodline's new enforcers. He watched as Roman Reigns, the once mighty tribal chief, was beaten down in a way that no one could have ever imagined. For a moment, it seemed like Jey couldn't breathe, as if the weight of years of loyalty, brotherhood, and shared victories had been shattered in an instant. As the camera lingered on Jey's face, you could almost hear his inner turmoil. This wasn't just about family or loyalty. It was about identity. For years, Jey had defined himself through the bloodline. Even when he had turned his back on Roman and Jimmy in the past, it had always been with the understanding that blood was thicker than water. That family would always come first. There was a moment, a split second, when it looked like Jey might rush to the ring, might try to stop the madness. His body tensed, his fists clenched, and he took a step forward. But just as quickly as the thought crossed his mind, he froze again, torn between rushing to his family's aid and accepting the cold reality that the bloodline had become something he no longer recognized. The WWE Universe watched in collective anticipation, knowing that whatever Jey did next would define not only his future but the future of WWE's most iconic family. As the beatdown in the ring continued, something broke inside Jey. His shoulders slumped and his eyes, once burning with intensity, became clouded with emotion. He blinked rapidly, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. This wasn't just about a faction or a title. This was about family, about watching the people you love most in the world destroy each other. For Jey Uso, this wasn't just another storyline. This was his life, his legacy, and his family being torn apart in front of millions of people. The heartbreak was palpable. You could see the weight of years of family history crashing down on him, the realization that nothing would ever be the same again. It wasn't the walk of a coward, nor was it the walk of a man who didn't care. It was the walk of someone who had been pushed to his emotional and mental limits. As he turned his back on the chaos in the ring, Jey made a decision. Not just to walk away from the situation, but perhaps to walk away from the bloodline altogether. The WWE Universe was left speechless. Would Jey Uso return to save his brother and cousin? Or had he finally realized that the bloodline, the family he had once fought so hard to protect, was beyond saving? Jey Uso's reaction to seeing Jimmy and Roman get beaten up by the bloodline was more than just a wrestling moment. It was a masterclass in storytelling. In just a few minutes, Jey conveyed a range of emotions that resonated deeply with fans around the world. His shock, his heartbreak, and his eventual decision to walk away added layers of complexity to a storyline that has already gripped the WWE Universe for years. What comes next for Jey Uso is anyone's guess. But one thing is certain, his journey is far from over, and the WWE Universe will be watching every step of the way.